I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This darkness takes everything. Everyone.
And we are here for another game review, and this time I'm going to talk about the 5 good things and the 5 bad things that I found in Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. Be aware, this video might contain spoilers. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice is a single-player action-adventure game. Personally, I think that this game is also a puzzle game, based on the amount of puzzles and the somewhat difficulty of these puzzles. The game is inspired by Norse mythology and the Celtic culture, and it was developed by Ninja Theory. The story is set in the late 8th century, and it's about a woman named Senua. Senua has lost the love of her life, Lillian, so she decided to go to Helheim, which is the land of the dead, in order to save his soul and bring it back. During the game, Senua hears lots of voices in her head, and she's constantly reminded of her own past. That's when she learned the truth about herself and about the reason why she lost Lillian. The game was released in August 2017 and is available for PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One and X Series, and Nintendo Switch. The game supports VR as well. Hellblade 2 is currently in the making and yet to have a release date. So let's jump right into the list of 10 good and bad things that I found in Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. We will start with the 5 good things. Number 1. Sound. One of the best things in this game is the sounds, whether it's the voice acting, the climate sounds, or the sound of the battle. The main character, Senua, is constantly hearing voices. The player hears those voices as well, if it wasn't obvious. Most of the time, these voices are reflecting Senua's deepest or most negative feelings. The voices are also helpful in combat when they alert the player from incoming attack or with general tips for the fight. Aside from the voices that are in Senua's head, the other surrounding sounds are able to capture the weight of the environment, and the sounds of the battles are very captivating. Number 2. Combat. Senua's fighting ability is superb. It allows her to fight strong enemies with quick movement and strong attacks. Her defensive skills are very good as well. As was stated in the former item on the list, the voices that Senua hears are very helpful during combat. Senua can only focus on one opponent at a time, but she can hit multiple in case where more than one enemy is standing in her line of the Storttelling. Blocking and evading are pretty easy to get used to, and they are mostly effective during the battle. While rewatching the gameplay, I found myself drawn to the combat visual. It's absolutely beautiful. Number 3. Storyline and storytelling. The game story is very good and very deep. The player gets into the mind of Senua and experience in her story. Throughout the game, the player learns about Senua's past, and simultaneously, while she's learning new details about herself and her history. She is fighting her most inner demons, and all of it in the name of love. Senua will do everything that she can in order to bring her lover's soul back. She will even fight the darkest creatures in Helheim, including Hell herself. One of the voices that I mentioned earlier in the video is narrating the story, by the way. The storytelling of the game is a major part of the game that helps the player to understand what is going on and even deepens the meaning behind the story.
All this time I wanted to protect you from the truth that would have destroyed you a long time ago.
Number 4. Puzzles. There are some parts where the player needs to solve puzzles by recognizing shapes in the environment. Senua has an ability that's called Focus, which lets her see things differently. With this ability, Senua can recognize certain shapes in the environment which unlock doors and passageways. There are other kinds of puzzles as well, but this is the most common type puzzle. In my opinion, these puzzles are a big part of the game. It challenges the players into thinking outside of the box. Where in other parts of the game, the way to do things are very clear. Number 5. Graphics. The game is dark, but unlike a lot of other dark games, this one does not put the darkness as a form to prevent the player from seeing the environment well or to hide certain features. The player can still see everything clearly and it's beautiful. The particle, the character design and the environment in general looks really amazing. But it's the combat graphic that I found most appealing. Senua's movements are so smooth and the combat itself looks great.
Fear swallows you before you have a chance to make sense of it. And darkness becomes a part of who you are.
Quick stop for a second guys, I just wanted to remind you that if you do like this content, please consider to leave a comment and subscribe. The 5 bad things. Number 1. Inconsistency in character voices. As mentioned earlier in this video, Senua hears a lot of voices, so I'm not going to talk about those voices. I'm talking about the characters' voices, not Senua's voice though. There is some kind of a shadow that follows Senua everywhere. This shadow is of some kind of a demon that keeps digging into Senua's head. This shadow's voice is constantly changing throughout the game. But that is not the only case though, there are some other characters as well. I know that it's supposed to be a part of the magic of these characters, but I just found it too confusing and maybe, but just maybe, the execution wasn't really well done.
What hope is there for him, even if his soul could be rescued? Do you think he'd thank you for what you have done to him, to his friends, to his father?
Number 2. Bugs. We will not dive too much into this item, but I want you to know that I'm not talking about those little disgusting creatures. I'm talking about some bugs and glitches that I encountered while playing the game. For example, sometimes when the main character respawn after death and the player started moving, Senua's moving around, but there isn't a walking or running animation. The problem with that is that in this state, battles can be very glitchy, and it resulting in a lot of death. Damn. Number 3. Voices are merging. So I've talked about the voices quite a lot in this video, but I promise this is the last time. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of voices that Senua and the player hears. In addition to those voices, there is also the narrator voice. Although the narrator voice is very pleasant and soothing, it's a bit low and it's merging with the other voices. When I first started the game, I couldn't understand a thing because of all the voices. I didn't know if I needed to listen to them or maybe I should have tried to make any sense of it. I needed to start the game over with subtitles, and only then I realized that there is one voice that tells the story.
She learned everything she could from him, until she too could see what he saw.
Number 4. Side stories. Throughout the game, the player can find some kind of stone with a bit of glow on them. Player can then use the focus ability to look at those stones and unlock a part of a Norse mythology story. Although it is interesting and nice, the execution in my opinion wasn't very good. Each stone contained a part of a story, but it's pretty easy to miss some of the stones. So it's not that easy to hear the full story because of it. But because it's not very important to the main story, it's not that valuable, which makes it irrelevant to the game and possibly be a waste of time.
Covered with honey to smear on Sigmund's face. But to what end?
Number 5. Puzzles. Now I know that I said good things about puzzles earlier in this video, but there are also some annoying things in this case. First of all, the introduction to the puzzling system was not very understandable. Although it is at the beginning of the game, it wasn't clear to me of how it worked and I managed to pass the first puzzles by a fluke. The second thing that bothers me about the puzzle is that as the player progresses in the game, there are less and less puzzles, which makes it a bit of a shame because I think that it's a big part of the game experience. Therefore, it was worth mentioning.
Before she knew it, the darkness had her in its claws.
And that was the list. But I got a bonus fact for you. Permadeath. Alright, this is a fun one, and let me explain. At the beginning of the game, there is a message on the screen that says, "The dark rot will grow each time you fail. If the rot reaches Senua's head, her quest is over and all progress will be lost." What most people understand when they read this message is if Senua will die too many times, all of the player's progress will be deleted. Being asked about it, Tamim Antoniades, the spokesperson of Ninja Theory, replied, "A large part of the game is about fear, and a large part of mental illness, psychosis in particular, is about fear." End of quote. It means that they deliberately show this message to the players in order to inject some fear in them that their progress in the game might be lost, which is absolutely brilliant in my opinion. But the matter of fact is that no matter how many times the player will die, the rot will never get to Senua's head, and therefore the player's progress will not be lost at all. It was only to let the players feel that fear. Now in conclusion, I found this game absolutely remarkable. I enjoyed each and every minute of it. But the game is dark, which means that there are some parts that people would consider as horror. So I would recommend this game for those who really enjoy thriller type games. I would not recommend it for those who aren't into story-based games at all. If you play this game, please consider to leave a comment below and tell me what do you think about it. Enjoy your gaming, I'll see you next time.
Never forget what it is like to see the world as a child, Senua. Every autumn leaf is like a work of art.